Apostle Paul, King Roy, like a young lion from the very start. He said, welcome Jesus in all troubled heart. You walk with the Lord on that.
Hey everybody, Patrick Lamb here. What a blessing to be here today. The song you just heard, that's the song I co-wrote and produced from a project called Heavenly Brother. It's my tribute to Martin Luther King. I co-wrote and produced some music about a man I actually never got to meet, but it has inspired so many people. The reason I'm starting tonight's show with that song is because of who's joining me now. A few weeks ago, my band and I were playing at a place called Funky Biscuit in Boca Raton, and after the show, this gentleman walked up, warm handshake, big smile, introduced himself. We got to talking. One thing led to another. And before the night was over, he was inviting me to Detroit and to be part of his community concert series. And once again, music brings people together. It opens doors that no man can shut. And tonight has brought me an extraordinary man to interview. My guest is Reverend Horace Sheffield III. He'll tell you in 5 words who he is: a social change agent with a spiritual mandate. And here's where the story really begins. When Horace was 11 years old, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about this at a march in Baltimore in June of 1965, Dr. King, who Horace will tell you was only about 5'4", I didn't know that, he looked so big in pictures, webbed his fingers together and hoisted this little boy up on his shoulders so he could hang a wreath on a fence. Horace climbed down and told his father, when I grow up, I want to be a leader like that. He's been chasing that calling ever since. So think about this. I co-wrote a song for Martin Luther King. Horace sat on his shoulders, and the award I received for the Heavenly Brother Project is called the Yolanda Denise King Award. I've named after Dr. King's daughter, Yolanda, and the Reverend Horace Sheffield III co-founded a youth theater company with that same Yolanda King. 2 paths, same family of light. And we found each other through music after a show in Florida. So today he pastors a 2,000-member church called New Destiny Christian Fellowship in Detroit. He runs DABO, a nonprofit his father founded in 1979. He hosts radio, he hosts television. He's a writer, and just this past November, his daughter Mary was elected the first woman mayor in the history of the universe in the city of Detroit. Studio Live, please welcome my friend, the Reverend Horace Sheffield III.
Well, thank you, Patrick. One little redaction to that wonderful introduction, which I'll have to encapsulate and use everywhere I go. The Lamb brought us together. Your name is Patrick Lamb, but the Lamb. I believe that God orders our steps, and I only approach people, by the way, that I have an intuitive sense, have embraced the same ethos that I do. And that was evident on stage, by the way. I noticed how you gave reference to God, and you were not shy whatsoever about acknowledging your faith.
I believe we're where we're at right now is partly because people have been quiet about what they know in their heart. So I think, it's time to speak what you know is true. The only thing that matters is what's true. And take me back to that Funky Biscuit. How did you end up there that night? What made you walk up to me after the show? And what do you think it was? I don't consider myself a speaker by any means. What about the music that pulled me in?
Well, the etymology or the genesis of being in the Funky Biscuit began in the 7th grade, being in Mr. Rogers' music room at my homeroom teacher, who played with Jimmy Wilkins Orchestra. That was the music that was a part of the Motown sound. And in 1966 or 7, I had the good pleasure to be on stage with Hugh Masekela, a friend of his, who came and played in the auditorium of my junior high school, and I was playing upright bass next to Michael Henderson, who played upright bass. And so music has always been a part of the fabric of my life. I love music. I love music. Eddie Levert's in mind. In fact, he did my venue that you're going to be playing at. And so, music's a part of my church ministry. I sing in my church. I love music. It's medicine for the soul. And so, having bought a place down in Southern Florida, I immediately began to find venues. And of course, the Funky Biscuit is the place I go. I've been there for several shows, and yours is, I think, among the best that I've seen.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I apologize. I'm kind of new to this podcast thing. I didn't have you on for the first minute, but people hear you.
That's all right.
So,
We have
gotta forgive me. I finally got everything working, and you and I both.
Patrick, let's do this. Let's get one final apology out for the rest of the show. You don't apologize anymore.
Oh my gosh. Doing the
Otherwise,
best I
I'm going to
can.
apologize. You apologize. Right?
Okay. Thank you. Well, you and I both know music does something that other things can't do. Pastor knows it. A musician knows it. Is there something music can do that a sermon can't, or are they one and the same?
Well, I think if you really are true to your calling, I consider myself a composer. I hear words like you hear notes. The way of those words, how they fit together, the sound of those words in conjunction with one another. And there are many people, Patrick, over my life. In fact, most recently, a young lady who is, I don't know if she was or is a Grammy-nominated artist. I was talking with her and writing her and encouraging her about her life. And she said, "Wow, you write like you composing music." Well, I hear words just like you hear notes, right? It comes from the demiurge, or it comes from that place where all ideals flow. We craft and create our consciousness so we can connect with the eternal. But yeah, my words to me are like songs, like music.
I'm fond of saying, people say to me all the time, they're like, "I wish I could, play music," and I say, and I believe this. I think everybody's got their kind of music. I mean, some people it's finance. I mean, there's people that are so well versed in finance and investment that it's like a music to them. And I think everybody has their calling or gift, whether they found it or not. No, that's a different story. But you've invited me up to the
I can interrupt you real quick. There are certain women who have music when they walk. I mean, it's rhythmic. I mean, I love to walk the way people walk. And some people like walk in rhythm. So.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. This is not that kind of show, though.
Yeah.
No, I'm just.
I mean, it's music. I mean, it is. I mean, like when I go, I just
we're on
got
a spiritual level.
I
I
just
can't
got
talk
back
about
from the
that.
Bahamas, for example, right?
Yeah.
And I've been up places like that. I mean, literally, I don't mean it in a romantic sense. I mean, they just really walk as if they're listening to music. Their whole movement is just, just amazing.
Well, you can tell a lot about people. I mean, energy never bullshits, really. I mean, people are a lot more discerning than I think most people give them credit for. I know that from the stage. And you've invited me up to Detroit to be part of your concert series. Tell folks what the series is, why music is part of the work you're doing in the city, and just what about the concert series in general.
Sure. Well, about 4 years ago, my beloved sister, my youngest sister, older than me, passed from a urinary tract infection. She was extremely wealthy, worked for Bill and Melinda Gates, taking some of the worst schools in the country, making them the highest performing ones. I've been a superintendent in several districts, Fulbright Douglas Scholar, PhD at 24, but yet she was in rural Georgia and died from an untreated urinary tract infection. So my way of grieving her loss was to purchase this 104-year-old library. Gabriel Rashad was one of the first settlers in Detroit. over 300 years ago, and renovating that. And so what did I want to do? I want to create a cultural experience for people to go to who can't afford to purchase a $75 or $100 ticket. But I wanted to couple that with not only enjoying themselves, but having access to the services I provide, whether it's healthcare or basic needs, preventing them from losing their homes. You know, we have a program here, couple programs. In fact, my daughter now has a $25,000 down payment program if you're a first-time home buyer. But all of those kind of things you can access at that concert. But you know, we've had Eddie Levert, Enzima, the Manhattans, the Stylistics. I mean, the list is endless.
You gotta connect me with some of those people. We're getting to know each other. But I've produced over 300 concerts myself. Kind of more like I've had like Sheila E., Gino Vanelli, all kinds of Diane Shure, kind of more jazzy stuff. Joey DeFrancesco. But I'd love to bring some of those people down. I'm producing some concerts down here at Del Rey now, Jazz Festival in April, and then so we got to talk more offline about that stuff.
Yeah, we'll do that. And I already told you about Gino Vanelli, how much I loved him, and you knew I knew a little bit of what I was talking about when I talked about the audience and how surprised I was about the composition of the audience. I mean, so I love you.
Yeah. There was like not many black people.
Yeah. I mean, that's surprising to me because
me too. When I'm playing, I'm like, man, isn't this funky? This is funky music. You know? Yeah. Well, but how did you know you were called to do what you're doing? Was it a moment, or was there like a slow knowing that you couldn't leave it alone, or how did or was it just like when you were,
Patrick, from the time I was a little child, I was around some of the most significant people in this country. I mean, Hubert Humphrey was a mentor of my father's. I'll never forget one day downtown on Woodward Avenue, he was marching and he came over and called me by my nickname and asked me how my mother Mary was. So, I mean, from the time I was a child, unlike today where people be doing selfies, look where I'm at, without any relationship to what they're doing while they're there, I began to really say, God, why was I, of all the people in the world, placed in this context where the greatest leaders of the world, at least in the black community, Dr. King, Philip Randolph, Whitney Young, Walter Reuther, the president of UAW. These were all people who came in my house. Nipsey Russell, Harry Belafonte, Godfrey Cambridge, sat in my father's basement. And unlike today where people would be bragging about who they met, I began to question very early, 5 or 6 years of age. God, there must be some reason that you chose me to be exposed to this, and please let me absorb everything I can from everybody. And then in 1963, my dad had Dr. King down at Cobo Hall. I knew him in the private sense. He sat in my father's house. I've spent time, by the way, in his house, and 224 Sunset in Atlanta. But I had never been that close to him as he spoke. And literally that day, I said, as he leaned forward, people would sit back. As he leaned backward, they would move forward. And I asked the Lord, what manner of man is this? He said, it's not the man, for what you see is merely flesh and blood, but makes him great is my spirit within the man. And I said, well, Lord, if that's the case, can I have some of that spirit?
Yeah.
He said, sure. He said, seek my face, and thy face will I see. And so that was my call, because I recognized in that moment that who Dr. King was really not his biography, wasn't his pedigree. It was really God had chosen this man and put his spirit in this man for a specific purpose. Which, by the way, if I can just pause for a moment, I was in Memphis for my first time since his assassination. The night Dr. King was killed, April 4th, 1968, I was in Monroe, Michigan, in a private school, because my father traveled in the movement and I was in the military school. And a nun awakened me early that evening. My father was in tears and told me Dr. King had died. I had purposely, Patrick, from 1968 until 2026, never set foot in Memphis. And my staff went with me, and they all felt, my son went with me, something very special. I felt my father and Dr. King's presence in Memphis that about 3-4 weeks ago. But that so impacted my life. I mean, literally, Dr. King's dad preached for me, and people said I was, one of the best Martin Luther King sounding preachers they knew because I emulated him. I loved him. I've since got my own style, but that's the kind of impact he had. One last thing, sitting in my father's basement that same weekend that he spoke at Cobo Hall, and Coretta, his wife, and I have talked about this because I can't remember but one conversation I had with him because I was always mesmerized by him. I would stand 6 feet away and just watch it, almost on the wall. And so that one day, all these people were saying, I went to school with, Christine, and blah, blah, blah. And he finally said to me after half an hour, people just bothered him about who they were and where they went to school. He said, look at all these people trying to impress me. And I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm just trying to serve. He was one of the most selfless, non-pretentious people. People don't know this. He would have died without a house if his wife had not made him take some of that Nobel Peace Prize money and buy that house. He died driving a Chevy Biscayne. It was in his garage, blue, when I tried to buy that car. He literally lived this. And I know I'm running my mouth, but one of the things that really got me was he was so concerned about how people saw him that he smoked, but he never let anyone see him taken of it until 2 days before he died, when he was in the airport in Atlanta headed to Memphis. He's sleeping with his legs crossed and a cigarette in his hand. What a man! I mean, what a man! I didn't know Mahatma Gandhi. I didn't know Bonhoeffer. I don't know if you know about Bonhoeffer, who went back to Germany, led Nazi Germany, and decided to go back and fight Hitler and was killed. I mean, these are people who realized that the true measure of their life was not how much they had, but how much they gave, and that impacts me.
For sure. How has this changed? How would you encapsulate what this has made you focus in on what you want to do? What are you trying to do with your life's work now? How would you, if you had to put that in a few sentences, what are you trying to do?
I put it in one sentence. I am a person that loves God and people, and I simply seek to serve both.
Amen. And you describe yourself in 5 words: a social change agent with a spiritual mandate. When did you first know that the activism and faith weren't 2 different jobs, that they were the same job?
That's a great question, Patrick. Probably in grade school, my mother was white. My father married her in 1949, and while he was very nestled deeply within the civil rights movement, was pro-black, he was really pro-human, and he loved my mother. And at the elementary school that I went to, my father was trying to get black educational leadership, because at that time in the public schools there was probably 1 or 2, maybe at the most, black principals. Here's a predominantly black school in a Jewish neighborhood, but there's a Jewish principal. And so my dad was successful in getting Dr. Taylor, whose husband was Hobart Taylor, who was a secretary of HEW something under Lyndon Johnson, to become the principal. And the white staff and teachers were really upset about it. And it got to the point where I couldn't tolerate it. I was really about to take things in my own hands. So that after about 4 days of that, ridicule and saying things about my mother and my father, I decided not to go to school. But I'm saying that I was struck by this. I was moved by the fact that some of my teachers who had PhDs were forced to sit in classrooms, but yet you had a principal who was white who only had a bachelor's. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And so that morning, my mother came to get me because I hadn't got dressed, and she said, "Well, you got to go to school." I said, "Mom, I'm not going to school." And she wanted me to tell her why, and I was sensible enough to spare her from what they were saying about my mother. They were making sexual jokes about my mother's preference for a black man and why. So eventually she got my dad. My dad came in and he said, "You going to school?" I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Why?" It's because if I go to school, I'm gonna get the worst spanking of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna say something to these people for ridiculing my mother and for the fact they would want to demote this exceptional black to be a teacher in the classroom, and she was more qualified than the principal in the principal's office.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad sat on the side and he said something to me, Patrick, I've never forgotten. And I have a young lady sitting here with me right now that's going through a few things that I just helped. He said, "Son, the only time you experience friction is if you're moving.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to go anywhere, you won't have any friction. But if you decide to do something, you'll always experience friction." So that was my introduction to social change and, standing up for people and understanding that that's not an easy task. Doesn't happen without retaliation, without resistance. But it's worth it because if you can change things at the end of the day, Dr. King died. I've not been asked to give my life, but so many and so much more has been asked of others.
Amen. Well, take me to Baltimore in 1965, June. You were 11. Black trade unionists had just been killed, integrated in a skilled trade site. Dr. King webbed his fingers together and hoisted you up to hang a wreath. What do you remember about that moment? What did the world look like from up there?
Yeah. Well, it was really, and a lot of people don't understand the lesson that I got out of that from my dad, but it was a convention, and A. Philip Randolph was stepping down as president of the Negro American Labor Council. We were in Baltimore, all these black trade unionists, civil rights leaders, probably 1,000 people at that convention. And while there, an African American integrating a construction site, driving, whatever, he wasn't driving, he was integrating, he was a skilled tradesman, was run over by a tractor and killed.
Wow.
And so Dr. King and them said, well, tomorrow we're going to go march there. We're going to put a wreath. We're going to protest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got there, they had a wreath, but, they were older people or not tall enough to hang it so the wreath could be seen. And Dr. King hoisted me up, webbed his fingers and lifted me up. I put it up on the fence. It was on the front page of several papers across the country. They're in my dad's archives. And I said to my dad the rest of that trip and all the way home that when I grew up, I wanted to be a black leader.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a black leader. And my father, you know what he told me finally, Patrick, when I got home?
What did you say?
And I hope you understand that. He said, black folks have leaders. White folks have jobs. You
Okay.
get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
When you were coming up with Dr. King and Roy Wilkins and Whitney Young and Harry Belafonte, did you have any sense of what you were in the middle of, or were these just dad's
Oh, yeah.
friends?
Yeah. I mean, look, I grew up in the midst of basically three major movements, right? The labor movement, um, and also civil rights movement, which was impacting the labor movement because blacks in the labor movement were not in leadership, even though they were needed, for example, for the UAW to have its strength because there were so many black auto workers. So I had the labor movement, civil rights movement, and then I was also in the midst of the Vietnam War protests. I mean, I had a draft card when I was in high school and came out of high school, 12th grade and etc. you had to look in the Sunday paper and see whether or not your number was called. And
Mm.
toward the end of that war, I had a 1H, which was like a student deferment. I went from a 1H to a 1A. So, it was, man, I tell you, that cacophony of contention
Hmm.
against things that were so monumental in changing this nation, which, by the way, have all been undone. Um, was just, I mean, it was like being in the valley of dry bones, and Ezekiel preaching over dead bones and watching dead bones come alive. It was the hand of God, man. I mean, it was, and the Vietnam War, I think, was probably just as impactful to me. I knew people, George Dorsey, bless his soul, in my 12th grade, that came home dead in my church. The only son of the Dorsey family, and Zabetta and the rest of them, my classmates, seeing how that death impacted them. I had made up my mind, Patrick. Hell no, we won't go.
Yeah. Amen. You said that as a child you had let's see if I pronounce this right, epistemological, did I say that right? Encounter with God, basically asking, why did you put me here in this house with these people?
Yeah,
Did you ever get an answer, or has the
yeah,
question become the answer?
yeah. I've got an answer. It's again, in all of those moments, to me, and I always contrast with the current context where people are places and they're with people, and it's about, look who I'm with, look, where I am, as opposed to I'm here doing this. In each of those instances, I knew that I had been placed there by the hand of God, and that I had some purpose or something to gain from that to give to others. And so that epistemological, which means, this really mooring and rooting in something divine and beyond myself, uh, was a series of things that happened to me. And the outcome, of course, is what I'm doing. I mean, I've given my whole life to serving others, man. I help people every single day. I have, I believe, sufficient gifts. I could have made it in the private sector. I could be doing things to make money for myself. But at the end of the day, changing the social order, or at least uh, the impact that the social order has on people, is a high calling. I will also say that I'm shifting some, because I don't think it's enough just to pick up people who are on the ground. Or we also have to do something about the system that knocks them down, right? Because we can be picking up folk forever.
Well, you got
At
to
some
teach
point,
people how to fish, or whether it's. I mean, I have 33 years clean and sober. I know a lot about that topic. So, I mean, people. You got to teach
I have
people
that
how
in
to believe
common.
in.
We bring that up, right? You and I have that in common. I got 38 years. You have
Yeah,
33. Yeah.
yeah, and so that alone, it's just that you learn. Not that I'm any expert in anything, but I do know that people have to reach the rock bottom. They also have to learn to believe in themselves, and there's no antidote for. I mean, you just have to figure that out, and
So
so
here's what.
teaching people how to fish rather than just giving them a fish. That
Right.
whole thing. Belief in yourself. If you don't believe, forget about Plan B, because that's the only thing that's going to get you off the ground. You got to believe, and you got to get to work, and you got to get um,
Hmm.
your stuff straight, and you got to stop doing the bad bad shit and start doing the good stuff. I mean, it sounds really simple, but on a certain level it is. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like, don't do
And
this.
so that's where we misuse or misappropriate the Holy Spirit. I want to be happy. I want to dance. I want to clap my hands. But at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit is there to help me be transformed, right? So that my life is more than fertilizer the dandelions when I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was going to say too, and the fundamental thing in terms of helping people at some point is not enabling them, but equipping them, right?
Mm-hmm.
making certain that they have what they need to be able to do for themselves.
Yeah, so many
You know,
people don't know. I mean, I tell people this because I feel like I had uh, to take a lot of the tools I learned as a kid and basically put them in a big pile and burn them and start over, you know. And I know there's people out there that feel like that. I mean, they look at, I mean, I'm blessed beyond belief now, but I mean, I've been homeless, alcoholic, had nothing, been on the street, lived in, I've worked every possible job you can possibly imagine. I mean, I picked strawberries, made pizza, drove trucks, cleaned ditches, you know. So people are like, "Oh, Patrick, you think you know?" No, I know. I'll outwork anybody. I can do. I had a sound company. I was the guy out. I'll load the truck and unload it myself. you know, you know.
right.
So, but you got to be willing to do the work. And to look in the mirror and make the whatever changes you need to make. So
Yeah,
it's always an inside job.
yeah. Well, success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. That's
Hmm.
what Thomas Edison says. And most people look at you or look at me and think, this we will, beam me up, Scotty. No, I mean
Yeah.
it's the hard times, the stuff you're talking about. I mean, and I almost wish, I telling my daughter this and my son that you go through some stuff because then you appreciate a little bit better being away from it and not a part of it and having been delivered from it. People who've never done it, never been through it, never, had any risk of losing anything, they don't have the same zeal for life or the same sense of I need to be more careful with my stewardship of me, right? That's
Yeah, or
how I
what
feel.
you can't appreciate it. Just human nature, unfortunately, seems like it anyway. But it seems like um, if you just have so much immediately given to you, it's almost impossible to
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah,
It's so. I mean, I can tell you, like, I went to a really high-end Episcopal school, and some of my friends were getting like BMW for their 16th birthday, and I didn't have, like, clothes to go on the ski team. I couldn't afford any of that stuff. And so I've been working ever since I was, like, I can remember. And now that I live here in Palm Beach with my wife, overlooking the ocean, I appreciate every single thing.
yeah.
I try, you
Yeah,
know.
the Bible says there's light affliction, but for a moment, but the work is
Yeah.
a far more exceeding weight of glory to come. Now, I grew up as privileged as I was. My father always said that in this house, certain things don't exist in the world and they won't be here. And one of the things says, you don't get something for nothing.
Yeah.
If you don't work, you don't eat. And my father had money,
Amen.
and yet we had to earn our allowance. If I didn't shovel the snow or rake the leaves or wash my clothes, and then the other thing which I'm really grateful for is that they didn't believe that there were male and female chores. My mother and father said anything
Just
that the
chores.
girls do, you do. Anything you do, they do.
Yeah.
And my first bike, Patrick, at 5, my first
Yeah.
brand new bike, I had to take some of my allowance money that I had earned and match what my dad would put into it to get it. And he said, you don't get
Yeah.
something for nothing in the world, and you won't get it in this house.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll say to you is I hated it. I thought my dad was terrible. Man, you got money, and the
I
dad,
thought my dad
and
was terrible. I hated
I
him.
mean, that's why that's why I am who I am today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because he taught me that.
Spare the
He
rod,
taught.
spoil the child. My parents would dump me off at my grandma's and grandpa's house. My grandfather was a Marine and a plumber, right? And they would make me go out and get a switch, and if it was too small, they say, don't make me go out there and get one because it's going to be a branch, and but that's important discipline. You got a lot of people, a lot of families out there with no fathers. That's one of the core issues on the planet because they don't know what the word no is or discipline. They never got their ass beat. And, I got my ass beat a lot. In school, too. I went to first and second grade in Ball Elementary in Ball, Mississippi. I moved 13 times by the time I was 15. I basically, this is not a pity party. I'm just sharing a little bit. I had like
Sure.
no friends coming up until I was like in high school, So, but my grandparents really taught me how to have discipline and kind of have a sense of where I wanted to go. I don't know if you can relate to people in your life that you don't realize it until later, but they were your North Star, and they were kind of showing you the way. But so
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, it's like when was the last time your own faith was tested? Not a political moment, but like your faith personally.
My faith right
Yeah.
now, what I'm going through, I friends with Mike Epps, and about 4 years ago, Mike and some people around him that I know said, I want to open up a comedy club, and I want to do it in Detroit because Detroit, by the way, people don't know it, Mike was in the Job Corps here in Detroit. So,
Mm.
uh, as a young man trying to find his way, having been in trouble, and so he said, "But I don't want to do it with anybody. I want to do it with you." And so I agreed to
I
invest.
like that. I got started to interrupt, but it's like my life is about who's on board. The longer I live, and I'm looking at I'm not like a spring chicken anymore. So really life, whether it's marriage or business or just what you're doing, it's all about who is on board because if you got the right who's on board, man,
Yeah.
you can have a tiny bit of opportunity and knock it out of the park. And if you can
Well, it's
also
always, yeah, it's
sink it like the
always
Titanic. If you can have somebody knock on your door, a great opportunity. You got the wrong who's on board, you're done.
right.
So you got to really choose carefully who
Oh man,
who's on
talk
board.
preach it out, Patrick. So I have a really short way of saying that.
Hmm.
It can be the right what, but if it's the wrong who, the what never happens.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so the one thing talking about
Who's
faith,
on board? Yeah.
did not ask God, should I do this? I mean, I
Hmm.
didn't have any red flags. I mean, I didn't see any way for it to lose with my EPS. I had some things put in place with some financing and all of that, and of course, it tanked. I lost almost $5 million. I still have some residual debt. Um, I live a pretty good life. I have real estate, around the country, and I mean, all of that has been at risk of being taken to pay a debt that I didn't have anything to do with.
Hmm.
The good news is though that people know what happened to me and they're working with me, and I may be able to settle that for about 20% of what the actual amount is. But it is truly the one thing that has been my greatest lesson. And I've had an opportunity, by the way, to sue. The police have looked at folks that are involved with theft. There's some major networks that were contributors to the demise of this club. And the Lord said to me, recently, just pay the debt, kick the dust off your heels. I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave you double
Up there.
trouble. Don't go after anybody. Just
Keep
just be
walking.
done with it.
Because it's
And
your
so,
life. Lawsuits. Any lawsuit is a drag. Even if you're if you're 100% in the right, it takes your time, your effort, your mental energy, and the thing I want the most is just my own time and peace, and just my peace. I don't
yeah.
want to
Well,
deal
see,
with
some of
a
you
bunch of
got to be done.
nincompoops.
Yeah, you got to be done with some stuff, right? And so the Lord gives us double for our trouble. And I tell you that the price I paid was worth the lesson I learned.
Mm.
And that is, I mean, you appreciate. I told some other day, if Halle Berry showed up tomorrow and wanted to go to bed with me, and the Lord didn't tell me I could, she would just miss out tomorrow night because I'm just not doing
Go on with
nothing
your
at
bad self.
I ain't doing nothing at all that the Lord don't tell me I can do. I'm just not doing it. I mean, because I know what the price now is of disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
See, I've never really had to pay a big price for disobedience. God's been long suffering, but
Mm-hmm.
that was taking me down a road that He didn't want me to go at all.
Hmm.
And so, but that's my most spiritual lesson. And let me tell you what I learned from it, and you'll like this, because God always gives me a way of dealing with it. And so I was really down the last 6 or 7 months because I didn't know where this thing was going to go. I didn't know I was going to have to pay another $2.2 million on a loan that was borrowed that they took. But the Lord came to me and He said, "You have two choices, Patrick. You can either be overwhelmed, which means that's you dealing with it by yourself, or you can overcome, which is me fighting the battle and standing with you."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I'd rather overcome than be overwhelmed." So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I'm overcoming.
Beautiful. Now you 40 something years of preaching, 2,000 members at New Destiny. What's a sermon you would have preached early on that you would say or do differently with your messaging today? Is there something that you preached early on that now you're like, no, I think because a lot of people don't give preachers or leaders room to change. Is there something in your core curriculum that's changed over time? And I think it's
Yeah.
anyway.
I mean, Patrick, you just this is an amazing interview.
Am I doing all
Yeah,
right? I'm trying to.
I
I
had
try to come up with some good questions.
I had a major shift in my preaching. Right. I had a young lady come to me a few years back, and by the way, you can see the difference in the growth of the church. Right. So,
Mm-hmm.
young lady came to me and said to me, she says, "Pastor, you never preach about love."
Huh.
"Oh no, I preach about love all the time." "What are you talking about?" "I mean, helping people." And Patrick, man, she said it to me two, three more times, and I thought about it, and I realized that I really hadn't. And the reason I hadn't is because I lost my mother at 16, watched her take her last breath, and really as loving as I have been and as providing as I've been to my children and as giving as I have been, that I really was in this shell where I uh, wouldn't let people love me.
Mm. Why? How come?
Actually, giving myself, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I preached a sermon, the lost loves, from John 3:16. God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. And I talked about all the lost loves. My first girlfriend, who I was in love with, I wasn't sexually active, and came home from school in Canada. She wound up with another boyfriend, and how all of those compounded uh, to create a certain callousness and closeness, where that I only love from a distance.
Hmm.
And then I said, as much as I can sit here and chronicle all of my lost loves and how it wound up me losing love.
Hmm.
Think about the love that God lost with His Son.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick, do you know there are people in that church that I had never seen in my life cry? I mean, the whole church was in tears.
Mm.
And people came and said, "Pastor, I'm talking about people been around me 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor, I've never heard you preach anything like that
Mm.
all the years I've known you." And that sermon changed my life. And what I told him is, we have to take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
We lose love, but you'll never win love if you keep counting the losses.
Yeah,
And
well,
I
yeah, it's a daily thing, like focusing, like it's a mental, like it's a choice, really. It's a because there's so much negative, right? And there's so much positive, and if you can choose to look at whatever you want to look at, and whatever you
yeah,
choose to look at is going to become greater. Whatever you focus on is going to grow. So that's what I know when I'm, each day I'm like, I'll start looking at something and it'll bother me. I'm like, if I keep looking at that, that's gonna suck my energy out of what I need to be doing. So,
The
you
most
know,
important part of that, Patrick, just as you've got clean time, there are things that have enabled you and helped you as you bore, um, you know, the challenges of that recovery and shared them at tables. People in recovery, you go to tables and you open up and share. When we open up ourselves, listen to this. What happened to me was that the Holy Spirit ministered to me. Blessed
mm,
are they that mourn, for they shall become. And those places of pain, those places
mm,
of abandonment and burden, God took from me, and He filled those broken places and that
mm.
broken heart with His Holy Spirit.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, well, here's something I want you to know. I worked on this Heavenly Brother project, kind of a tribute to Martin Luther King, and I received this Yolanda Denise King Arts Award. So you're the co-founder of a theater company with her,
Yeah.
Nucleus Inc. And years later, on the other side of the country, I'm getting the award in her name. Can you tell me about Yolanda? What was she like as a friend, as a collaborator, and as Dr. King's daughter?
Well, let me just tell you, Patrick, Yolanda spent the last um, day, 2 days before she died, with me in Detroit. There was some conflict in her family. There was fighting over Dr. King's papers, which Dexter was responsible for the father's estate and the King Center. And she was going out to talk to Dexter because, one side of the family locked the other side of the family out of the King
Isn't that
Center.
horrible? It's like whenever there's any time there's money in a family, here, like they just end up fighting, suing each other. Like where I'm at, I don't expect nothing from nobody. Like I don't
Yeah.
expect anybody to leave me anything. And that way I could be free of all that. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. That's a good point. And so she came here to see me because, Yolanda and I were very close. And we went to Fish Bones to eat, and I said, look, just be prayerful. She had a lot of anxiety. So the day she got to California, Patrick, she called me. I was out buying some custom made suits at I'm trying to think of the name of the company. They're closed now, and the call kept dropping.
Huh?
She would call me, it drop. I call her, it would drop. I mean, this went on 7, 8 times, and finally we connected. I said, Yolanda, what's going on? She said, I just want to make sure you're all right.
Yeah.
I said, I'm all right. Are you all right? She said, I'm
Mm,
going to be.
mm.
She died the next day. My understanding is she died going to the door of Dexter to see her brother to try
Wow.
to repair this breach.
Mm.
But Yolanda was an amazing friend of mine. We traveled the world for 4 or 5 years. Ella Joyce was a part of that. Harry Belafonte's daughter was a part of that. Interesting enough, when Yolanda met Attila Shabazz, it was for, I think, Ebony or one of those magazines. She had some trepidation about doing the interview.
Mm.
And I said, no, I'll do the interview. And they were both in theater at the time. In fact, I met Denzel Washington at Attila's house on Convent Avenue. And what his birthday is? December 28th, 1954. That's
Wow.
my birthday. We were born
Wow.
within hours of each other. And he was
Wow.
playing her father at Henry Street Settlement for Woody King, and Kirk Kirksey was Elijah Muhammad. So I said, both of y'all in theater. Let's put something together. And
Yeah.
we traveled the country for 4 or 5 years, man. And we did the National Black Theater Festival. Loretta Devine was in our company. Sandra Reeves. I can go on and on and on. I helped write the play.
Mm.
I was in the play,
So you're
and
an actor. You're an actor too.
yeah, any
An
preacher,
actor.
any preacher's a good actor because you got to get up
Mm.
on Sunday and
Yeah.
act like what they said and did to you all week doesn't bother you.
Mm. Yeah. What was Yolanda's personality like? I mean, what was like? Can you describe like what was it like to hang with her?
Yolanda was as sweet as they came. Yolanda did not want to offend or hurt anybody. She would hurt herself before she would hurt anybody else. In fact, one of the things that happened for her and I, because we were boyfriend and girlfriend, that was my girlfriend.
Mm,
And I turned into like her daddy, and it changed our whole relationship because I got tired of people taking advantage of her.
mm.
And I
Her
wound up becoming
protector. Then you became her
yeah,
protector. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Huh. And so your son is a music producer, right? Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about him? What kind of
yeah,
stuff does he produce, or where can people check him out?
yeah. He's doing pretty good. He's doing some stuff with Bruiser Wealth. Well, I can't tell you some of the rap artists. Now he's on the spiritual side, but my son has written stuff that some major rappers have used as material. Of course, um, you know, he sells it to them, so he can't say who they were. And along the way, I encouraged them not to do that because the very thing that I thought would happen did happen. When you look up and you see a Nelly or somebody, I can't mention names, or somebody like that uh, doing your material and you get no credit, it's your stuff. It really sent them into a fall.
Yeah.
And I, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
well, don't get me started about the business. I mean, it's a whole racket. Part of the. I mean, it's just what it is. It's a few, a whole bunch of clicks and a few people that control it, and it's no
Yeah.
mystery. I just speak what I know because that's the reason I've focused on. Best thing you can do is with the new internet is just focus on creating your own thing. And that's what I
Right.
do. I book my own tours, create my own concerts, ticket company. I had a ticket company that I founded. I did over 50 million with, and but now I really love music. So
Yeah.
that's where my heart is, and just really just trying to do good. That sounds way oversimplified, but that's my intent, whatever it is. And if I was not in music, it would be to do good for people, do something good.
And you do that. And by the way, it's your show, but I'm going to ask you a question because
Sure.
my people don't look at this, and I already told them you one bad brother, right?
I
Tell
don't
tell
know.
some of the tell some of the people you've worked with. You've worked with some of the best in the business.
I've worked with a few people. I was in Bobby Caldwell's band for 8 years. I was in Diane Scher's band. After she won her second Grammy, we toured all over the planet, from the Kennedy Center, every blue note on the planet, and with Bobby Caldwell too. I headed up Gino Vanelli's horn section for 18 years. And I've done some touring with Jeff Lorber Fusion. I've guested with Kiss and some rockers and Robbie Krieger and stuff like that. And so that's some of the stuff that I've been. And I've produced over 300 concerts. I currently produce five-star concert series the last 15 years, Jazz at the Oxford. And, I have Arturo Sandoval coming out. You can check it out. Just look up Jazz at the Oxford. And then I'm producing a jazz festival here coming up in April. And then also a tribute festival. People like this tribute thing. And I was like, I'm going to put together a weekend of the best stuff that I actually like. Great, talented, because there's some talented people out there who do it. And so it'll be a weekend. It's going to be the end of the November, right after Thanksgiving. You can see it now, actually, delraytributefestival.com. And I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I'm
Yeah,
busy. And I'm
you know
playing,
what? Yeah,
I'm playing like
exactly.
200
That's right.
events a year.
Patrick. That's why I got you coming to Detroit because I have a kindred spirit with yours, right? And
Mhm.
and I didn't know you were in recovery.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what got
It's funny. I got to go back to this thing. So, it's funny because, like, I recall being a guest. I'm not going to say what festival it was, okay, because I don't want to mention any names. But they had this kind of round robin questionnaire thing after where they get all the artists together. And then they ask them questions about their background. And most of the artists are like, yeah, I went to this. I went to Eastman. I got out of college, went to Eastman, and then I was touring with War, and now I'm on tour. And they were like, I went to Berkeley, and then I got on tour at so and so, and now I'm here. And then for me, I was like, well, let's see. I was picking strawberries and making pizza, and then digging ditches and driving trucks, and it was just a very different story. Not a pity party, but it just, I don't fit into that particular schematic of how a lot of people have had success. It's been worth it and wonderful, but it's some of it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the candidness with which you share your faith on stage. And I mean, and look, you put on one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. So,
Thank you.
you know, Cannonball Adderley was from Detroit. I was exposed to him. You saw Lateef from Detroit. So we've had some great musicians here.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and you're in the tradition. My favorite musician, by the way, is Gene Harris.
Oh yeah.
Three,
Make it real
yeah,
compared to what?
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Trying to make it real compared to what?
yeah,
Gene
well,
Harris.
that's his brother Eddie.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Right.
Gene Harris was the pianist. Eddie was the saxophonist. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's that Swiss Movement album with Les McCann.
Les McGee. Yeah, I love that.
And where's my money? Gotta make it real compared to
Compared to
what?
what? Yeah. Yeah. Man. That if your father was sitting next to you right now and could see everything you've built, DABO, New Destiny, Mary in the mayor's office. We haven't even talked about that much. What do you think he'd say first, and then what would he say second after the proud part?
Well, I think my dad would be amazed when my father passed. Uh, Dabo annual budget was about 25,000. We did 5.4. We own real estate. So I think really building it into a survivable institution that will be here long after
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm gone. And I also think that he probably would say to me, son, I think that you ought to focus more on ministry. My dad always pushed me into public service, had me run for office at 21. I ran for Congress. I mean, I won at 21, but never won anything else.
Huh.
And he always pushed me out in the public sphere, statesman and all that. But I think he would probably say, I think you need to leave all that alone. I think you're doing pretty good in the church, and that's where you should probably focus.
Where are you headed now? Like, what's next for you? Where's your spirit taking you? What are you feeling like? What you want to do moving
Well,
forward?
we have a lot of property on Grand River between Illinois and Wyoming, which is about probably a mile and a half stretch, and we have lots and houses. We just did a deal in the last couple of weeks to build 10 homes,
Hmm.
three on the lots that we own. We already have three properties that we bought and renovated. I really want to take that part of Detroit, which is starting to get some interest. Hispanic folks are moving in, poor whites are moving in, and really, really create a community there built around my family's presence since really 1984 in that community. My
Hmm.
dad built 50 homes in downtown Detroit in 1966. That whole area is, you can't touch it unless you got good money. But for the working class person, the everyday, working poor
Mm-hmm.
who have to make choices between gas and groceries, to have a quality home in that neighborhood with a real community is the legacy that I want to live. We renamed that community, which, by the way, I am so proud. We had a couple news stories done recently about a business that was people stealing stuff out of people stealing stuff and selling it to them, hot water heaters and all that. And on every newscast, the reporter referred to the area as the McKenzie Noble area. We call
Mm,
it the McKenzie Noble community. That was
mm.
never the name of it. And to see that actually become a community is where I want to go and what I want to leave. I
When you're
also
not,
want to say this.
yeah,
I want to enjoy myself too. I want to be down at the Funky Biscuit.
yeah,
I get your whole schedule. I'm coming to something in July. You got
man,
one date.
I'm so grateful to have met you. Thanks for being my new friend, and thanks for your time today. And I'm gonna apologize one more time for the technical first couple of things, but all's well that ends well. Um, and one last question: when you're no longer here, when Horace the Fourth and Mary and their kids tell stories about you, what do you want them to say you got right, and what would you still want to try to fix, if anything? Is there anything you're working on now, like you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, I want them to say that family was always first.
Hmm.
I want them to say that I understood the true measure of my life was not how much I had, but how much I gave. And I
Mm,
want them to stand over my tombstone and say, "Here lies a man that loved God and people and sought to serve both."
amen. Amen. Well, last one. We started tonight with a song I wrote for Dr. King. Leave us with one good word, the line from your book, your father, or your own pulpit you most want the audience to walk out with. And then I'm going to play the song Heavenly Brother off the Heavenly Brother record, and that you can find on all platforms. Horace, thank you for joining me
Okay.
and being my friend. And I look forward to seeing you in Detroit. So you leave us with whatever you'd like to leave us. God bless you and everybody
It,
out there.
it's a young 17-year-old girl that was in my alternative school who we helped get emancipated. But in that journey, um, and the reason we were doing it because her father, biological father, was having sex with her
Oh, man.
with the permission of the mother,
Yeah.
and we got her in court, got her emancipated as an adult at 17 or 16, and she also became a witness in the case against her father and mother, who were criminally charged.
Mm.
And the day before she's supposed to go to court, the father and mother pull up to the school with about 12 people and try to snatch her to keep her from testifying. And I had created such a family among my students, alternative schools, that they came out behind me when they saw me to go out and confront this father and mother who were trying to snatch this little girl. And
Man.
I was prepared to cut their heads off, Patrick.
This is
And
why. This is why it's all about who's on board. Because I don't even want to
yeah,
say it here online. Like, cause I'm the nicest guy, but I'm.
I mean,
Let's just say I'm very extremely prepared.
yeah,
And I'm a Second
well,
Amendment guy, like to the max.
yeah. I won't tell you how I'm prepared, but I was as well. And we call the police. Here's the police coming. I see the police to the
Hmm.
left,
Yeah.
and when we're getting ready to grab her, I got in front of him and I was about to hurt him. And
Hmm.
this little girl grabbed my hand, Patrick,
Hmm.
and looked me in the eye. Pastor Sheffield, do not put yourself in trouble. There's
Yeah.
nothing else they can do to me, say to me, or take from me because I have learned how to dance in my darkness.
Hmm. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, hey, to everybody out there and to you, love you. Thank you for spending time with me. Tomorrow, I have Ray Parker Jr., who wrote Ghostbusters, interviewing him tomorrow. And
From
so,
Detroit, from
yeah,
Detroit.
from Detroit. Everybody's from
Northwest
Detroit.
United
I'm interviewing everybody from Detroit. And so, if you like what you're seeing, like it, please like this, share it, subscribe. This is kind of a new beginning. I'm trying to do, learn how to do this podcast thing. So thank you guys for joining me. Share it. subscribe, and let people know about tomorrow with Ray Parker Jr. And I'm going to leave you with this version of Heavenly Brother song. There's a whole project, actually, if you want to go check it out online. Songs I co-wrote, produced. It's like the first thing I ever produced in my tiny 600 square foot first home in the basement. So the production is not great, but the songs are great. So God bless you guys. Stay in touch. I'm going to see you soon, Pastor. Thank you for being my new friend. See you soon. Well, I thought I was going to leave you with this. Here we go. Let's try it again. Here we go. All right, you guys. Okay, guys, I was going to play you this, and then you see how that worked out. Give me a second here. Okay, well, I'm not making that happen. Doesn't look like. Let me try one more time.
Yeah.
Let me try one more time here. I know I have it here somewhere. Hold on. Give me just a minute here, guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay, here we go. And then here it is. I made this, but then
Program out. Be better than using this song for my TV show.
Reverend King stood on the podium, standing tall. Martin Luther is strong as the Apostle Paul. King roared like a young lion from the very start. He said, "Welcome, Jesus, in all troubled heart." He walked with the Lord on that narrow path, taught us how to escape God's angry wrath. Martin Luther King, you're a blessing from heaven. Martin, we love you, and oh, how we miss you too. You're our heavenly brother, and we want to thank you. Martin loved Jesus, and now he's home. Martin was loved, so cast no stone. He devoted his life in what he believed. He gave us strength to help us to proceed. We want to thank the Lord for him. God sent us a great man who honored him. Martin Luther King, you're a blessing from heaven. Martin, we love you, and oh, how we miss you too. You're our heavenly brother, and we want to thank you. Martin Luther said we shall overcome, and all he wanted was God's will to be done. Martin Luther, you're more than a legend, and we will never forget you. And all God's continuous love in this spiritual war, yeah. Martin Luther King, we love you, and oh, we miss you too. You're our heavenly brother, and we want to thank you. Martin Luther King, you're a blessing from heaven. Martin, we love you, and oh, we miss you too. You're our heavenly brother, and we want to thank you. Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King, and oh, we miss you too. You're our heavenly brother, and we want to thank you.
In memories of the King, your fight, my brother, was not in vain. You were a man of integrity, an honorable man. Your accomplishments were so outstanding in the hearts of those who who will love you forever. My beloved brother, your inspiration tumbled down the walls of racism and hate, and today they're still falling.